Hello there, be honest with yourself. Have you always imagined Harry Potter in his magical robes when you were a child and felt extremely envious? Well, let me tell you, this girl would say that being invisible isn't as exciting as it might appear at first sight. We're going to share the story of how she acquired this superpower and what else transpired. Holly was the middle child in her family. Her older sister Vanessa was known as the beautiful one, while her younger brother Troy was considered the intelligent one. Holly lacked those qualities. Her mother was the only one who cared about her hobbies and thoughts, but she fell ill when Holly was 12 and died suddenly. After that, her family ignored her. Her father never asked about her day, and her siblings overlooked her. This neglect spread to other areas of her life. Back in school, Holly was often ignored, and one day she just vanished without a trace. It's been many years since then, and Holly has managed to adjust to a somewhat ordinary life despite her unique trait. Nowadays, she resides alone in a rented apartment and works night shifts. Most of the time, she finds herself in nightclubs, where she observes the lives of others and sells photographs of them to local journalists, earning quite a bit of money. Her brother Troy continues to live in his father's house. Specifically, he resides in the basement, where he has established a film studio. There, he creates peculiar experimental films, focusing on the legs of women who happen to walk by him. Vanessa, on the other hand, got married and remains quite obsessed with her appearance. Every Friday, the family still gathers for dinner, an event that Holly attends, despite the fact that no one really cares about her presence. One day, as is her routine, Holly is heading to her shift at the club. She watches famous individuals and trails them into their private lives. However, unexpectedly, something surprising occurs. The bouncer ejects Holly from the club and ignores her inquiries. The girl is so taken aback that she believes she has reverted to her usual state. Then, another security guard appears on the street. She attempts to engage him in conversation, and it becomes evident that, like the others, he doesn't perceive her presence. Several days later, Holly comes across a newspaper featuring the photo she had taken. She realizes that the man in the picture is actually the bouncer from the club. It turns out that his name is Shane Blackwell, and he is a former world champion in mixed martial arts. Holly discovers that this man had dated the famous actress Juliana King a few years back. For a period, the two of them were at the peak of their fame. Then Shane was caught cheating, and shortly after that, he lost a fight to his well-known rival, Attila Made. The fans turned their backs on him, and his career rapidly declined. Yuzan Holly decides to return to the club and encounters Shane at the service exit. She asks if he remembers her and hands him the newspaper. When Shane finds out that the stranger is about to ruin his career, he becomes even angrier and tells Holly to leave him alone. She then claims she can clear his name, restore his career, and perhaps save his relationship with Juliana. Shane isn't interested in hearing this nonsense, especially since he's rushing to meet his agent. Holly insists on going with him and promises to demonstrate her skills. At the bar, she promptly sits beside the agent and keeps glancing at his phone. The agent completely ignores her presence. Holly soon discovers this and loudly remarks that Shane's partner is deceiving him financially. He is receiving far less money for the games than he deserves. Shane is confused by this situation and hurriedly leaves the bar to seek clarification. The girl claims that he is the first person ever to see her. Shane is skeptical about her words, prompting her to choose more drastic measures to convince him. The man understands that the driver didn't see the girl as she claimed. He agrees to meet her at his house the next morning. When they meet, Holly shares her theory with him. She believes they share the same curse and must help each other to break it. She quickly finds evidence supporting her theory. It appears that Shane was kicked out by his mother's boyfriend when he was 13. And has felt neglected since childhood. Holly felt similarly when her mother passed away. Eventually, Shane accepts her help and invites her to an underground fight where he competes. Holly is unimpressed with the venue and questions the winner's small prize of just $300. She tells Shane he deserves more and vows to arrange better opponents and larger competitions. Over a few days, Holly carefully examines the portfolios of the most formidable fighters and chooses to begin with the infamous brawler, Suarez. She stealthily enters his home, capturing images of the steroids in his kitchen, and then sends him a picture of the pills. Just a few meters away from her target, the girl composes a message stating that she will forward the photos to journalists unless he complies with her demands. From Suarez's house, she heads over to Shane's place. Shane has just gotten off the phone with his agent, who informs him that he has set up a fight for Shane against the well-known Suarez. Shane quickly understands who is orchestrating this situation. Preparations are underway for the significant fight, where Suarez is clearly the favorite. However, Shane is training more intensely than ever before and is getting increasingly closer to Holly. He decides to invite her to attend the fight. Holly, however, mentions that it's too risky for her to be in the crowd, so she declines the offer. Shane then suggests that she could watch the fight at his house and wait for him there. Holly agrees to this plan and makes a stop at her sister's place beforehand to borrow a blouse and some lipstick from her. It's a tough fight, and Shane nearly gives up from the start. Yet he endures his opponent's attacks for 3 full rounds, then suddenly traps Suarez in a painful chokehold, making him submit. Right after the fight, Shane goes home, encounters a pesky reporter, and calls Holly to join him on the roof. They eat pecan ice cream, gaze at the moon, and chat. Shane expresses his concerns about losing his mind and questions Holly's authenticity, wondering if she's genuine. Holly is somewhat taken aback, almost offended, but then Shane kisses her. Just then, a journalist's camera sneaks out from the stairwell, capturing a photo. However, rest assured, Holly will barely be visible in the picture. Shane holds a press conference with his upcoming opponent, the arrogant Tommy Bones. Bones mentions that Shane is not ready and is likely to quit during the first round. Blackwell, however, isn't questioned by the reporters about the fight at all. Instead, they focus solely on the mysterious girl in the photograph. Some speculate that it is Juliana King, hinting that the two might be back together. Shane chooses not to respond to the questions. Following the interview, Holly manages to sneak into Tommy's limousine and sends him a message. Attached is a picture showing him, along with his fangirl, and her underwear. Holly writes that the girl in the picture is actually 16 years old and attaches her ID for proof. She proposes a deal to Tommy. The hour of the big fight has finally come. Shane goes up against Tommy, who has impressively won 10 fights consecutively, yet that does not deter him from defeating the smug athlete. Following this surprising victory, Holly offers her journalist boss an exclusive video showcasing Shane's training, but he refuses. No one really seems interested in successful men. Instead, she offers him what she claims is insider information about Shane's upcoming rematch with Attila Made. The news reaches Made swiftly, and initially, he doesn't like it at all. However, his agent persuades Attila that another victory would solidify his status as the champion, which the athlete eventually agrees to. Holly spends the entire day in Made's apartment, attempting to uncover incriminating material, but she finds nothing. The following morning, Holly visits her sister to give back her clothes and finds her in the bathroom, crying while holding a pregnancy test. Holly is confused as to why Vanessa isn't thrilled, but she feels helpless. At the same time, Juliana unexpectedly invites Shane to the bar and begins to flirt with him. During their encounter, Holly arrives unexpectedly. She witnesses the situation, becomes upset, and quickly leaves. The couple argues. Holly insists Shane's ex is just using him. He pleads for her understanding, saying he can't date someone imaginary. Holly is hurt by this. She tells Shane she found nothing on Attila, so he must handle it himself. They have a heated argument. Holly locks herself at home and sees on TV that Shane has rekindled his romance with Juliana. She is utterly devastated and decides to quit her job. However, one day, Shane comes to visit her unexpectedly. He explains to her that the picture Holly took wasn't the reason for his and Juliana's breakup. He admits that his initial fight with Attila was completely his own fault. The girl then realizes that the real reason the curse hasn't been broken yet is due to something else entirely. Shane provides her with a new perspective on what truly happened to Holly after her mother's passing. Perhaps her family didn't actually abandon her. Maybe something entirely different occurred. The girl is astonished by the audacity. Not only did the most significant person in her life pass away, and nobody seemed to care for her afterward, but now Shane is hinting that it might have been her own doing. Once again, Holly finds herself alone. She continues to reflect on her family, and it appears she is gradually recalling certain things. One day she visits Vanessa and catches her taking a pregnancy test for the third time, then hiding it from her husband. Holly kicks the trash can, revealing the test to her son-in-law. Her husband is thrilled, but Vanessa begins to cry. She confides in her husband about the trauma she faced after her mother's death and her fear of having children. Suddenly, Holly comes to the realization that she wasn't the only one deeply impacted by the family tragedy. Later on, Holly visits her brother's house. She starts watching his films, which she used to find strange, and begins to see beauty in them, particularly in the shots of her mother. Holly observes that there is a girl who frequently appears in the shots Troy takes. At that very moment, she walks by the window, and the girl makes the decision to help her brother get to know her by it. The stranger makes a bane. Afterwards, the girl goes to speak with her father. She discovers a large collection of sleeping pills in his bedroom, realizing that he spends his entire day working on the computer. It's not because he has any significant passion for his job, but rather to numb his emotional pain. The girl also observes that he still holds on to her mother's photographs and visits her grave with flowers on every anniversary. In 2001, Holly comes to the realization that coping with the loss was challenging for every member of her family. She had expected so much support from others that she entirely overlooked the fact that she could also provide support herself. As quickly as possible, the girl hurries to the location where Shane is set to fight Nate. Unfortunately, she misses the beginning of the fight and ends up listening to it on the radio. This is when she learns that her lover will stay on the defensive during the first 2 rounds and will initiate the 3rd round with a injury concludes. At last, she makes her way to the scene. Shane's condition deteriorates from one stage to another. He is nearly defeated. As he rises, he quickly receives a barrage of hits to his chest and chin, causing him to fall once more. Following another grueling round, Holly rushes into the ring and encourages Shane with a motivational speech. She reminds him that he is a champion and truly belongs there. The invisible girl knows he can no longer see or hear her, but takes the fighter by the hand anyway. Suddenly, Shane opens his eyes and looks straight at her. Holly runs out of the ring, and Shane returns to the fight with renewed vigor. He inflicts a series of lightning strikes on his opponent and exhausts him with grappling on the ground. Holly, meanwhile, is pulled away from the ring and realizes she is no longer invisible. A few moments later, the referee halts the match, declaring Shane the winner. The judges then reveal their scores after evaluating the results of all 5 rounds. The competition between the fighters is extremely close, yet Nate emerges as the victor. Heartbroken by the loss, Shane exits the ring. Juliana approaches him, saying he performed admirably, but she quickly turns to Nate, showering him with praise and compliments. Shane searches for Holly and literally pulls her away from the guards. He realizes Holly is real and admits he's ended things with Juliana. Thus, Holly's curse is lifted forever. She's found true love, but there's more. She must still learn to empathize with others and mature. Yet, the first step is taken. At the conclusion of the story, the girl approaches her father and embraces him while crying. What do you believe will occur after this moment? Do you think Holly's relatives also feel disappointed by her actions? If they do, is forgiveness possible?